in the calf to the second line in the thigh, then the third line in the calf to the center of the thigh. And now sitting down between the feet of his partner, he holds the foot and foot presses the back of the thigh. 1, 2, and 3. In this position he can go well up onto the hip. Back down, lifting the foot across, holding the back of the heel to keep the foot in place, and now pressing with the other foot. One, two, 3, 2, 1. Lifting the leg over to the outside and walking with both feet. He lifts the foot across both of his legs to the inside and then reaches around to hook and pull into the inside line 1. Repeating, walking with the hands, one hand following the other. Holding the knee, wrapping the line. He palm presses up the calf and the thigh one more time. He positions her leg to raise the hip, and then checks for the points of the hip, 3 points of the hip. And he begins by palm circling around the hip, checking his position one more time. The heel of the palm, the heel of the hand goes right on the first of the 3 points of the hip. The second and the third points. Here he presses on the second point. And the third point. He shows the position of the 3 points of the hip and then circles around with palm circles around the hip. Comes back down the leg. Returns and shifts his position around behind his partner's back. With both palms in the back, he presses up along above the spine, from the waist up to the shoulder. And walks back down. The lamina groove, he presses with both thumbs together up along the spine. And around the border of the scapula. He shifts his position so that he continue to work up around the upper border of the scapula. And he continues to press with his thumbs around the scapula. Now he walks with his thumbs around the border. And then with alternate thumbs, thumb chasing thumb, he walks back down. With thumb on thumb, he presses out the waist above the iliac crest. And repeats the palm presses up the back. Placing one hand under the upper arm, holding around the shoulder, places the broad part of the forearm against the rib cage and stretches, rotates the back. Holding the hand, the arm, the wrist, he stretches the shoulder, moving the arm through its range of motion. And then lays the arm back across his thigh and palm presses the arm in the side position. Stretching the hand and the wrist. And now begin thumb press up the center line of the forearm, moving between the biceps and the bone on the underside of the arm, above the wrist, above the elbow, and then coming back down. He repeats the palm press. And stretches the wrist and the hand. Laying the hand down on the hip, Chongkol puts one hand on the shoulder, the other on his partner's hand, and stretches the arm and palm presses together to the elbow, back out, together, and down. Stretching the wrist. He thumb presses up the center line of the arm. Above the elbow, he comes to the back side between the bone and the triceps, and around the front side of the bone and the biceps to the other line on the outside of the arm, and back to the center line below the elbow, back to the wrist. Closing with a palm press of the arm up and down. Rotating the palm up with the thumb toward the back, he kneads the palm and laces his fingers with his partner's, pressing the 6 points of the palm with his thumbs. He carries this into thumb presses and thumb strokes. And now is doing the 5 lines of the palm. He's doing 2 fingers together this time. Leaving 1 line in the middle on the 3rd finger to be done singly. He turns the hand over, kneads the hand, and begins the 4 lines on the back of the hand, down the channels between the tendons, the ligaments, and then out each finger in turn. Lacing the fingers together, he rotates the wrist, stretches the arm, and rotates the fingers and pulls. Raising the hand up, he rubs his thumbs out the underside of the fingers, supporting the back of the knuckles. And then places the hand on his partner's head, with the hand covering the ear, or beside the ear on the side of the head. With one hand on the elbow, the other out the thigh, he leans in and stretches, comes up and kneads the underside of the arm, and presses. He takes the hand, straightens out the arm, shakes it out, and lays it down. Behind her body, with one hand on the shoulder, the other halfway between the hip and the knee, he presses out the thigh 3 times and on the shoulder. Then pushing on the hip, pressing on the hip and the shoulder, rotating the spine. He lays the arm down in front of his partner and picks up the bent foot, the bent leg, cradling the leg in his arm and hand. This will be shown from another position so that it can be seen more clearly. His knee in the back, he presses lightly and pulling back, working down onto the hip and onto the thigh. He changes and uses the other knee to work down the thigh more thoroughly. Coming back up. He moves the knee to the center position, holds the leg back against his knee, pulling it back, and then reaches around and hook and pull into the inside line. Wrapping the line, Here we see this work from the other side. Holding the knee in his hand with the leg cradled in his arm. He pulls it back, pulls the leg back as he shifts his knee in the back and then on the buttocks and the thigh. Pulling into the inside line and wrapping. He places this leg down on the mat and picks up the ankle and the foot of the straight leg and the top arm at the wrist. He twists his body and leaning back and stretches the hip. Now with the top leg, again placing his foot against the back, he stretches and opens the leg, the hip, placing the leg down in front of the body with his foot behind the bent thigh and the top arm lying across the underarm. He holds his partner's arm and lifts the body, stretching the shoulder. He releases the back with gentle palm circles up and around the back on each side of the spine. Repeating the side position